Good evening, everyone. My name is Lauren McBride. I am the principal at Burlington High School. I want to welcome you to our 10th grade student and family night that is being facilitated by our amazing school counselors, Mr. Tony Settle and Jen Richter, who will be with us and leading us through the evening tonight. We also have Shannon Walters, who is here helping to support with the tech side of things. And assistant principal of student supports, Kate Paxton, who is also here as well. We are just a few kind of like housekeeping pieces as you settle in from the comfort of your own home. There is a view button on the top right-hand corner. So if you're having a hard time, if currently your view only has one of us up, but you want to see all of us, you can go ahead and use that view waffle button to be able to make any changes. This evening, there is a Q&A function that you'll see at the bottom of the bar. That is a place that if you have questions as we go, you can go ahead and add that question into the Q&A function. We're going to use that one instead of the chat. So that way we can monitor that and be answering questions as we go. There also will be a time for a question and answer period at the end. I just want to give you or just provide you with a super quick welcome. I know that this year has been an unusual way to enter into high school, and there's been a lot of really amazing work that's been happening. And I think that as we continue to move into the spring, we are excited to continue to see our current ninth graders grow and thrive within our downtown BHS space. There's going to be a lot of different activities that are happening in the spring that will continue, and as we continue to open up as a school, that we are hopeful that we can welcome you into our community more than you've been able to be in the building before. And I just want to do a quick plug for tomorrow, just as a reminder. Tomorrow is an early release day. In the afternoon, there's a couple different options. We have credit recovery, and also we have a makeup workspace. This is for students that maybe have some work that they got to catch up on. Maybe they're behind on a few assignments, or there's just they want a quiet space to be able to work. So students are able to stay after the early release bell. We are going to have some student interns, some of our college community interns and faculty that will be in the cafeteria and the library providing academic support for anyone that may need it during that catch-up space. And additionally, there are some workshops that are happening for families tomorrow. There's been a couple robocalls that have come out this week about them. They are featuring some of our school counselors as well as some of our other supports in our building, such as our social worker and our SAP. So if you're curious about them, check your email, because there's an email that came out from me with a link to a flyer that has some different offerings for families that will happen tomorrow, Thursday in the afternoon, and then also Friday in the morning. Friday is not a traditional school day. Again, from 9 to 12, we will have credit recovery and that catch-up space, as well as some workshops running. So we're really excited about this. We're looking at this as a way for students to be able to catch their breath as they end Q3 and move into Q4. I have taken up too much of your time tonight. I am now going to turn it over to Assistant Principal Kate Paxton, who will take us away from here.
Thank you so much, Lauren. I wanted to say hello because I am new this year and have met some of you and have not yet had the opportunity to meet many of you. I too am really excited about how we're starting to emerge from our cocoon and open up, and look forward to welcoming you into our building as the months come ahead. And my role as Assistant Principal of Student Supports is a new role at BHS, and I have the privilege of supporting some of our most intensive student support teams, including the counseling department. So wanted to make sure you know that I am here, that my primary responsibility is to help build and strengthen our student supports and support our teams that are doing that work, and look forward to reaching out to many of you and to welcome you to reach out to me with questions and ideas, and really partnering with our parents and community in the months and years ahead. And with that, I will turn it over to two of our amazing school counselors, Tony Settle and Jen Richter. who will take it away.
Okay, thank you so much, Kate. So I'm the lowercase a in amazing. Jen Richter is the uppercase amazing in that equation. So let's get that straight. Annie Barker, it's very good to see you too. I'm looking forward to the BCL presentation. I want to thank Lauren and I want to thank Kate for their efforts. Lauren, oh, okay, good. You're still here. So you should hear this. Untiring efforts, the amount of work that's going into keeping us growing and surviving is amazing and deserves recognition. So there it is. There's the recognition. I am going to start sharing my screen shortly. Shannon, thank you so much for your support too. We couldn't do this without your technical expertise. So I'm going to start sharing my screen and start talking about tonight, but I really want to lead in with a couple main themes. And actually there's really one overriding main theme, and it is about finding your interests, finding the things that you are truly interested in, that you feel a pull towards, that develops into a passion or already is a passion, and finding community in the midst of pursuing those. That is what tonight is all about. I'm going to go over some basic things, very typical for a 10th grade presentation. We'll talk about credits, we'll talk about course registration, but the underlying theme of everything tonight is about self-discovery. And so I just want you to keep that in mind. That's so vitally important. Okay, so I will start sharing my screen and just give me half a sec. Okay, here we go. Oh, I need to click the share button. Okay, Burlington High School, class of 2024 night, and today. Oh, okay. Sorry, guys. I'm can't seem to advance slides easily. Okay, so we had the introduction with Lauren and with Kate, and I want to introduce
So I'm going to jump in because sometimes Zoom is a little tricky.
Aren't
Aren't we so glad that we're not doing this full time? I'm so glad we're out of the remote.
I'm sorry, it's not
Left-hand
working.
corner.
It's not working.
Okay.
Okay, so I want to introduce our fellow school counselors, Jen Richter, whose caseload is students with the last names M through S, generally speaking, will be helping out on the chat and answering questions tonight. My name's Tony Settle. I have the students with the last names T through Z, and I am also the school counselor for the EL students. I believe for 9th graders, my alphabet may be in the mid W's. Karen Prouty is alphabet F through L, and Lise Bruder is A through E. So if you need to reach out to talk with your students counselor, that's a good way to start the process. Though in truth, any of us are happy to respond to any questions from any parent and help guide you to the source that you need to get to. Tonight's overview, tonight's agenda, so sorry. There's an overview, we'll talk about graduation requirements, course registration, which is has already started and is ongoing. The main thing I mentioned before, exploring interests and careers and some of the good ways to do that. We have a software package that we use called Naviance. Parents have received an invitation to have their own account on that. They can also be part of their students' account. Students are also have their own account on that. There are a lot of really neat tools in there for post-secondary, college, and career exploration. It's not just about colleges. And then there are school year opportunities. These include things like Burlington City and Lake, BTC, that's Burlington Tech Center, and Center for Technology Essex programs. And then we'll talk about looking ahead, and that'll be discussing some summer options. I was thinking of something and it's not immediately presenting itself. Okay, overview. So Again, the dominant theme of this presentation is explore your interests, self-discovery, and connecting with your community. So much of the 9th and 10th grade years are acclimating to high school, getting core requirements taken care of. You'll see later in the discussion that there is more selection once you reach your junior year. But building strengths, and there we go, building strengths across the curriculum. So the really cool thing now is you can start thinking about what comes next. There are many more programs that you can now apply to. We're coming out of COVID times, hopefully, finally, and that will make more things available in terms of visiting places in person. So course selection, program offerings, summer offerings, those are the things we're talking about when we talk about what's coming next. Okay, senior and junior years are for exploring personal interests more deeply and to try new things. And it says risk. So for sure there's some risk involved, but that could be as much as saying, I anticipate being uncomfortable in this situation, but I want to try it anyway. On a side note, career decision-making often comes from trying out new things and figuring out what you like and what you don't like. So it's all experiences are worthy experiences, even if it leads to you saying, boy, do I never want to do that again. Okay, so nuts and bolts, BHS graduation requirements. Students presently need 24 credits to graduate. This has actually been adjusted very slightly. We were unable to present the YES program over the past 2 years, so it's now 23.5 credits. This is to meet graduation requirements. Graduation requirements can be different from specific post-secondary preparation. I'll elaborate as I go through each category. So English, students need to take 1 credit of English per year for a total of 4 credits. Social studies, 3 credits. As sophomores, most of them are presently in world history. They took civics during 9th grade. You're required to take civics, world history, and US history, 1 credit of each. US history is divided into 2 semester-long classes. So there are some more options there, and I'll go into that in another slide. Mathematics, 3 credits. Those can vary depending on where you start. Science, 3 credits, traditionally earth science, biology, and chemistry. World language, 2 credits. Fine arts, that would be an art class or music class, 1 credit. Physical education, 1.5 credits, and 1/2 of those credits can be earned through team sports participation. Health class, 0.5 credits. And then electives, it's not cut and dried that it's 6 credits. It depends on how many classes you've taken in specific subject areas. The last thing is year-end studies counts for 0.5 credit. And okay, that's oh, I see. So this was edited. It's 0.5 credit presently because, okay, I realized I need to correct myself. Sorry about that. You guys will need to do present sophomores will need to do 23.75 credits because they'll have the opportunity to do YES this year and the following 2 years. So that should say year-end studies, 0.75 credit, 0.25 per year. We have community service, 10 hours per year, and a personal learning plan. Those are the real nuts and bolts of what number of credits you need to get to graduate. But for a student, say, who is interested in pursuing STEM studies in college, you would want to do 4 years of science and 4 years of math at a minimum. For a student that's interested in going to design school, you'd want to do far more than the 1 credit of fine arts. All right. By the way, I want to mention that I want to leave a lot of time for questions from parents and students. And my goal is to minimize the amount of time I'm talking to you, because it's really difficult to participate in a webinar and just have to listen to a one-sided conversation. It's not a conversation. All right, so next slide. I did say that there's more selection, more choices. So US history, for example, instead of a 1-credit world history class as sophomores, you can now choose between several different US history classes, depending on what your interests are. There are things that focus on, for example, Why We Fight is a history of American war. Resist is a history of protest in US history. So one is more world-centric, the other is more, or from the perspective of US history. The other is more national-centric. Ethnic Studies Part 1, Part 2 is going to be through a specific lens of different ethnic groups and their experience in the US. Women in US History is another one, and AP US History is one of the first AP course offerings that students can challenge themselves with. And that actually is a year-long course, 1 credit. If you, speaking to 10th graders or their parents, if you or your child is interested in taking that class, I got to tell you, it's a significant amount of work, and there is work to be done over the summer. It's very challenging, but there's a lot to be said for engaging in that challenge and learning about yourself. Social studies electives, these are course offerings that juniors can now start to explore. Things like psychology or public issues and world's affair. Burlington City and Lake has offered partial day classes in the past. We hope to bring that back, but that is not unplanned for next year. All right, so those are just some of the info on the US history social studies electives. Course registration. So this started February 8th. And has been going on since then. I want to emphasize that this is course request. These are just requests. Once we get all the requests, we figure out how many students are choosing which classes, and we get to decide which classes we're going to be able to run. We won't be able to run all of the classes that we listed in our initial program of studies. We are aiming to deliver preliminary schedules by the end of May. This is a process that has ongoing adjustments. So your students may well have already requested their classes. They can continue to reach out to their counselors and alter their requests, adjust their requests. This can happen during the summer. This can happen during add drop period in the fall. So there is a lot of time to reflect on what your interests are, how your interests are developing, and trying to adjust your schedule so they fit those interests. Okay, so the question is, what is the average number of jobs a person has in their life? And just think about that for a second and think about your own experience. And knowing that the majority of you has had several different jobs, how do you figure out what your next step is? Or how do you figure out what your first step is going to be with your next step? So the answer to this question, according to some web resources, is 13. So some have had more than that, some have had less than that. But basically, most people are going to have a number of different jobs. And so here's where I start to get into the meat of my objective for tonight. And it's, how do you figure out who you are, what you're about? How do you figure out what might be a good fit for you? And there are a number of guides that you can read and try and take in a data source from outside and say, oh, okay, this is giving me information about something I might be interested in. But for sure, the surer place to get information is yourself. And it's a matter of reflecting on your experiences. And these experiences can be very small or much bigger. I know of an artist that was in a science class and was watching a science experiment and realized that they were not interested as much in the formulas and the mechanics behind it as the object that was being displayed and the forces upon that object. That they were describing how the object was moving, and the artist said, "Wow, all I thought was, what a really cool object. Look at the beautiful structure and form and shape." And so that was the artist telling moment where they said, I really want to get more involved in art, and that's what they made their career in. So that's what I mean when I talk about that. There are some really cool tools. I'll go into Naviance more later, but there's some really cool tools in Naviance's career. In Naviance, there's something called the Career Interest Profiler and Strengths Explorer. And so these are really simple quizzes. They may have multiple choice or maybe a couple different selections on just preferences. So there's no right or wrong answer more than it's just how you feel about it. And what you choose is right because it's right for you. It makes the whole thing very easy. Daydreaming, exploring ideas on the web. The web is an incredible tool. You can go on YouTube and see firsthand videos from inside a jetliner. You know, they have some of the 737 or 747 pilot perspective of taking off and landing. That's just one that leaps to mind. Another thing is job shadowing and informational meetings. We have a huge number of connections within our community. It can be as simple as talking to a teacher or talking to a trusted adult or talking to your friends. Perhaps they're involved in something where they can connect you with somebody who can have a meeting with you and talk about, you know, what they do and what you might be interested in. Okay, Naviance. You know, oh, I see, okay. I feel a bit in a bubble because I can't hear anything. It's just me reading the screen. I'm really curious about what might be going on in the Q&A or the chat, and I'm not seeing anything. You guys, please, if you have any questions, please write that down in the chat group or write that down in the Q&A, and I'd love to talk about the things that you have questions about. This is certainly not meant to be a one-sided presentation. Okay, so back to Naviance. Naviance is a software program. It's used for college and career exploration and college application support. We mainly use it for college application support. I think it's underutilized. What we do is we put in all of the documents, transcripts, school profiles, letters of recommendations that a student must send to a college with their application. We collect all of those in Naviance. We link them up to the student's application account, which is generally Common Application. And that way we seamlessly send these records and to the schools that students are applying to. So the really cool thing about Naviance, though, is there's a whole self-discovery section. Again, all students get a Naviance account. All parents get a Naviance account. These are generally issued at the start of it's reissued at the start of their junior year. They get them earlier on, but we make a big push to get them to the juniors. All right. So I'm going to respond to this question about jobs or internships at the end of the Naviance slide. And so I'll get right to that. I went to that side. Okay. So let's get over here. Okay, here we go. So in the interest surveys in the self-discovery section, they have things like career cluster finder, strengths explorer, career interest profiler. So profiler. So again, these are very simple, short, I don't really want to questionnaires. That's really the best way to describe them. And they ask you things like, do you see yourself working in an office or do you see yourself working outside? Do you like to work with computers? Do you like to keep records? Do you like to instruct someone? You know, things that point you in really solid ways about interests that you have. Once you go through some of these questionnaires, they will automatically link you to a career database, and they will give suggestions on pursuits that you might find interesting. I don't even want to call them careers so much. I just want to start with what are you basically interested in? And then go along that. And it may be that you're interested in teaching, and you know, so classically you can work in education, but you can work in education in a number of different areas. You could work in Knowles outdoor experience education, or you could work in academic research at a large university. There are so many different ways to pursue a specific interest in a bunch of different ways. So it helps you identify things you're interested in, gives you ideas about where you can pursue those. Not the other main part of Naviance is it's a really good way to explore colleges. They have something called Supermatch, where you can put in the things you are interested in school, be it major or location or college size or extracurriculars. And they will generate a list of schools that you might be interested in based on your parameters. So that's when I talk about starting to create a college list. That's another thing that Naviance is really good for. Okay, I want to jump on the queue. Oh, they were already answered. Okay. Interest in particular. All right. So I see that Lauren McBride is answering the first one about type of job or internship. The first thing, not knowing what Lauren's going to type.
Do you want me to, Tony, do you want to start and then I can jump in? How about you start and I'll jump in?
Okay, sure. Go see your school counselor. That's one of the best ways to find these things. If it is related to a specific subject, go see your teacher in that specific subject and ask them if they have any ideas on how to do that. Professional in that field.
Yeah, I was going to say the only other thing that I wanted to add, so my response that I'm halfway through with was, first check in with your school counselor and potentially teachers about opportunities that may exist within the community. One of the things that we're actually working on right now is really looking at our flexible pathways opportunities. And we're looking to expand specifically some opportunities, just even for internships within the building. It's in like the very preliminary phases, kind of preliminary planning phase right now, but we're looking to pilot this next year. So that way we can enhance just opportunities like even on site. So there'll be more to come on that. That's kind of like in the construction phase. But as Tony said, first and foremost, check in with the counselors because they have access to existing relationships that already exist.
Yeah, the other thing I want to add to that, thank you, Lauren. The other thing I want to add to that is there are a number of opportunities that are made known to us in communications from colleges. UVM, for instance, had students working in a science lab. It was either last summer. Well, I may be going back 2 years because I'm thinking this has to have been pre-lockdown. So there are other opportunities that are made known. Yeah. In BCL, for example, students will be working with a number of professionals from different backgrounds in the context of their classwork with BCL. So that's another way to make relationships and be able to access opportunities. Another example, my wife is a physician. I'm very linked in with the UVM medical community. And so I'm able to make connections for students there too. Okay, I quickly want to move on to Valerie's question and talking about Naviance tools are very underutilized. And I would agree with you, Valerie. The self-discovery ones, they are ripe for exploration. So do you with students, or could you with parents do an orientation screen share to get over the hump of using these tools in another time? I would love to do that. So yes, absolutely, emphatically, yes. All right, I feel like I am going over a little bit, so I want to move off the Naviance page. Oh, I see what's going on. There we go. Okay. Naviance. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about summer opportunities. There's one thing I want to emphasize, so I'm going to jump straight down to 1, 2, 3, 4. The fifth bullet, Governor's Institute of Vermont. So they are now in person again, which is, oh my goodness, I'm so happy about that. This gives students a chance to study at a college, so it's a bit of a college experience. They are studying in different course content areas. Governor's Institute of Vermont, giv.org. They are generally 1 to 2 week stays. The majority of them take place between June 26th and July 2nd or July 10th, though there are others that last longer, as long as July 28th, and there's some that start on June 18th. Again, application deadline is April 3rd, and the cost is not overwhelming, and it is also income-based. So they have a sliding fee scale, and it can be as cheap as $10 just to cover the application fee for a student to attend for 2 weeks. I believe so very strongly in Governor's Institute. They really have some fabulous offerings, and they have things in STEM, they have things in art, they have things in public, for lack of a better way to describe it.
Can I jump in? Since I serve as one of the program directors for GIV in the summer. So technology and design is at Champlain College with faculty. So they do cybersecurity and game design. Engineering is at Norwich, and they do everything from energy sourcing to mitigation of climate change. Current issue or global issues and youth activism happens down in Pulteney. Astronomy is back this year, and that's at Linden, Northern Vermont University at Linden, and they're out at the observatory in Peacham. So each of the institutes, it's quite a variety. Governor's Institute of the Arts is at Castleton for 2 weeks. So each institute varies in length of time. But one of the nice things about it is you don't need to be an honor student to be part of it. You need to be passionate about the particular topic. So the website that Tony shared, the giv.org, will show you all of the details about each of the institutes. And again, they have a real commitment that any student who's interested should be able to join. I have had students who have struggled thinking that they had to do a college level application to be a GIV student, and it's really not that. It's meant to have students demonstrate their interest in exploring the topics. So the students should not work so hard on their applications. Yeah. They should sign up because it's awesome, and really give students an experience of what it's like being on a college campus for a week or two with lots of support and scaffolding for high schoolers.
Shannon, thank you so much for that very expert description that you provided so much detail. Don't have to be an honest student. You can explore. It's about what you're passionate, what you're interested in, and just exploring that. So Governor's Institute. Other things to consider about this summer: take the time to do some job shadowing, find network, find connections to somebody that is connected to something you want to explore, and set up a day where you can go and talk with that person and see what their job is really like hands-on. Summer jobs, it's always nice to have a summer job and both to earn some income as well as potentially to explore a new interest. Think about doing some community service. You need 40 hours by the time you graduate. And again, this could be related to something that you're interested in. Internships, we mentioned before. There are some class offerings in the local colleges: CCV, UVM, St. Mike, Champlain. There are dual enrollment classes. It's tricky based on the start dates, and this year sophomores are eligible as soon as sophomore year ends to take two tuition-free dual enrollment classes. And unfortunately, some of the start dates for those classes begin before the sophomore year ends. But others exist. Deanna Bradley is the key person to talk to about this, but mention it to your school counselor, reach out to your school counselor, and they will be able to put you in touch with her as well as to answer other questions. There's also an introduction to college and career class at CCV, and that is the basics of functioning as a college student. So it's going to be about being organized in study skills. UVM also has a summer academy. It's part of the continuing School of Continuing Ed. It is for the majority part virtual, unfortunately, this summer, but that's another option. Okay, the last one I have before I turn this over to Andy Barker to talk about BCL is about, it says take appropriate risks. In short, try new things, follow that spark of interest, or a friend is doing it and you say, I want to hang out with my friend and I think this could be cool at the same time. Just explore, just try something new. Reflect on what you like. Were you a hands-on person? You really like working with, you really like doing research or tabulating results for scientific study, whatever it may be. Try to follow that and discover a place where you can pursue that. So there's, try a new sport or join a new club, try a new course. I mentioned the dual enrollment opportunities. Think about different paths that you can take, tech centers, a little bit more on that in a bit. Dual enrollment, something I'll talk to you about next year is doing early college during your senior year, where you are officially a BHS student, but you attend college full-time. The courses you take there count both as high school credits and college credits. And aside from book fees, it's basically free. Burlington City and Lake Burlington City and Lake, Andy can describe that. But the main thing is, these are opportunities to learn more about yourself and following what you're interested in and not what you have to do. Being engaged in a community of people that are into the same thing, that's fun. That's what it's about. That's the enjoyable thing. You get to have personal choice and personal empowerment. Getting a little philosophical, but we've been stripped of so much choice over the past couple of years. And it's nice to be able to re-engage with that. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to have Andy come in and Andy, you just let me know. Okay, number one, Andy, are you there?
I'm here. How's my audio?
Your audio is fine. You let me know when you'd like me to advance a slide. I'll keep my screen sharing going and I turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you, Tony. I'm going to show a lot of pictures. So if you folks are at home and just listening in, you probably want to turn the video on. My name is Andy Barker. I'm the project director of Burlington City and Lake Semester. And it's one of the great opportunities that's available to juniors and seniors at BHS. It's a BHS course. I'm just going to show some pictures and talk a little bit about the program for maybe 4 or 5 minutes. I'd be happy to take questions at the end. Thank you, Tony, for making space for me to talk about this. And folks out there who are 10th graders and have students who are 10th graders in their family, you've got 2 shots at this. Students take City and Lake as juniors or as seniors. So let me start here. I want you to think about the times when you are at your very best, when you're happy and productive, when you feel confident about yourself. And I want to ask you to think about what the conditions are that help you to be at your best. If you're like most people, you're going to say, you can advance the slide, Tony, that you're comfortable physically and socially, that you're not stressed out, And go on to the next slide. You're exploring new things, as Tony has been talking about, meeting new people. Next slide. You're encountering new ideas and new places. You're seeing things with new eyes. Next slide. You're going to say you're with friends and you're making new friends. You're expanding your social circle. Next slide. You're having fun. You're doing things that you're genuinely interested in. Next slide. Things that feel relevant. You're having a say in what you're doing. You're having the chance to go deep into things that interest you. Next slide. You're making a difference in the world. You're finding challenge that's the right level of challenge. Next slide. So you're learning, but you're not overwhelmed. Next slide. And you're going to say that you're being yourself and finding out more deeply who you are. Well, that's kind of what BCL is. It's a program that's really built around this question: what do we need to thrive? Next slide, please. What do we need as a person? What do we need as a group? What do we need as a community? And we don't just talk about that, we do it. Next slide, please. More than 150 students have done BCL now. We're in our 4th program year, and all kinds of students have done BCL. And I really mean that, all kinds of students with different learning profiles, different backgrounds, different relationships with school. And if you ask those kids, almost all of them are going to say it was fun. They learned a lot about the city. They learned a lot about themselves. They made new friends. And that's even in COVID times. Next slide, please. So BCL is a great chance to spend more time in the city. Next slide. To engage with issues that really matter right now, right here in our city and also globally. It's a chance to stretch your wings a bit, to explore some new things, to reconnect with peers. A lot of BCL students write their college essays about something that we encountered in BCL. Next slide. So here are the basics. BCL is a Burlington High School course. You earn English credit, social studies credit, and 2 electives credits. So that's 2 semester credits. You meet on blue days all day in the city from 9 to 3. And our home base is at the old North End Center, which is just 3 blocks away from downtown BHS. And from that base, you can do the next slide, Tony. We get out and about. We're in the fresh air. We change up our environment. Next slide. We do hands-on projects. We talk to interesting people. We visit unique places in Burlington. Students learn about city systems and the environment. They reflect on these experiences. And we have enough time during the day to cover some ground, to get to the lake or the South End or the Intervale, to have some fun together, and really to think deeply about things that we encounter with frameworks, such as systems thinking. We talk a lot about power dynamics. And you can go to the next slide, please. So BCL is built around several key themes that we think are fundamental to really preparing students for the 21st century. Sustainability. How are we going to take care of our planet? Next slide. Equity. How do we make the world a fair place for everyone? Community. How do we form healthy relationships in the place that we live? Civic engagement. How do we take action in the world? And we use frameworks to understand these topics, and then we pursue projects to do them. So we've done a number of real world projects together over the last several years. Next slide, please. We've consulted with the city of Burlington on their first ever equity report. Students created a video about racial justice with dozens of interviews with various advocates and leaders in the city. Next slide, please. We've had students plant native tree species for forest restoration as a part of the city's climate plan. We've collaborated with a number of professional artists on public art projects, projection art, murals, podcasts. Here's a picture of students who worked with street artist Will Casso-Condry, and they made a series of large-scale faces that are hanging downtown at BHS. Maybe you've seen that image before. Next slide, please. We also do individual projects, so students follow their curiosity. They use interviews with people in the city, direct experiences, to do living research, sometimes collecting data and then presenting that to their peers. And it's really amazing what we can learn from each other. Next slide, please. Students, when they complete BCL, say it gave them new energy and perspective about who they are. Next slide. About how engaging school can be, about what they might want to pursue for a career, about how they can make a difference in the world. A lot of students do find adults in our city that they want to follow up with to pursue internships. And we've got a number of students now working at the Forbital Factory, which is a textile design and production shop. A student working there who found that role through Burlington City and Lake Semester, many others I could name. So the idea is Burlington City and Lake Semester is an opportunity that you could consider for your junior or senior year. Since course signups have already happened, if this is something that you wanted to pursue as a junior, you should really check in with your BHS counselor. But I will say the application is open at our website, which I hope you'll check out, btvcityandlake.org. And certainly, if you're interested, but it doesn't work in your schedule as a junior, you might want to consider it as a senior. So I'm happy to take any questions. I really want to end by saying that we are really interested in a diverse group of students. That helps our program to thrive. And everybody out there, I would like to invite you to consider BCL as a part of your high school journey at BHS. So Tony, I don't know, do we have questions? What's the best way for me to do that?
Let me see. I'm going into the chat and the Q&A to see. Can we say? No, there are no questions right now, but I just want to say, Andy, you hit on so many of the key things about BCL in terms of pursuit of different types of projects, working with people in public governance or private sector business or infrastructure or scientists related to the lake or artists that are part of a mural project or public interest when you talk about racial and diversity issues in the city. So I take the lack of questions right now to be indicative of the depth of your description.
Thanks, Tony. I'll say one other quick thing if I can.
Sure.
We are going to be consulting next week with the architect team that's working on the new high school design project. And one of the things we've been talking about this spring is the education system and what our schools really need to thrive. So that's been a great opportunity for us to have input and to be engaged in that and to bring student voice to that really important decision.
Yeah, excellent.
Well, thank you so much for having me on, and I will turn my camera off and enjoy the rest of the show.
Okay, thank you so much, Andy. I really appreciate it. It's such a great way to explore interest. There's so much exposure to so many different careers or pursuits or vibes. It's really an amazing experience. if you're a student or speaking to students, if you're interested in BCL, please talk with your school counselor. There's the, I know there are emails going out from BCL with the website information. And we can hook you up with those guys. Okay, so I want to, let me go back in the chat really quickly. There was one Q&A that I wanted to say. Okay, so there's a question. I'm going to cover this one right at the end, but it's what are some options for students that may want to take a gap year? So we're going to talk a little bit about gap year at the end of the presentation. I have very few slides left. So that oh, I see, I have to click here. Here we go. Okay. I wanted to mention the Burlington Tech Center. They are in the midst of their application. They've been hosting visits. If you're interested in a program, it may well be that there are still spots in the program. I know, for instance, that the Digital Media Lab focusing on photography, video, recording, the instructor, Jason Raymond, just let me know that he is still seeking some of this year's 10th graders for that. So that is a daily program that lasts for half a day, awards 3 credits, and gives students a chance to explore different technical, I don't want to say careers, interests. You know, there's auto body or homeland security and criminal justice, health science academy. There's design and illustration, digital media lab, there's culinary arts, aviation. There are a lot of different programs. It can be a really cool thing. There's also the Center for Technology at Essex. At this point, they have completed their application period, but if they have a program where they still have spots, then they will open up that program for new applicants. And that's a full day program where the science, math, and depending on program, English and social studies and art credits are embedded in the coursework over there. So you're attending that program and you're going to get 6 credits or more depending on the program you're in. But it's a great place to explore things like computer animation or cosmetology or dental assisting. They have an engineering and architectural design program. They have a natural resources program. They have building technology where students are actually building a home side by side with professionals. So there is a lot of hands-on technical training in those programs. Okay, so looking ahead. So basically you're at the beginning right now. It's, I wouldn't expect you know what you want to do or be. I mean, that's basically absurd, though. Of course, it's not to detract from people that have a real solid feel for what they want to do and what they want to pursue. But I'd say the majority are exploring right now. So there are different ways to explore these things. Work, military, maybe an option, apprenticeships. Vermont has an amazing apprenticeship program that once you graduate from college, you can get apprenticeships with contractors or companies and end up being a licensed practitioner. So it could be a carpenter, it could be a plumber, electrician, heating, ventilation person. These are extraordinarily well-paying jobs with a huge demand. And so if you are really hands-on, then that's something that you can pursue. There's a well-supported pathway to that. We will be talking about college and what your interests may be along that route. During your junior year, there's going to be some standardized junior tests. In the fall, there'll be the pre-SAT, and in the spring, the ACT test. I do want to mention that a lot of schools are phasing out the requirement to take those tests. Approximately 75% of colleges have gone test optional for at least the next couple of years, and I think that's going to be extended. The next thing I want to say comes back to the one of the most important points I could make tonight, which is simply get engaged and do it doing something that you're interested in. There's nothing that's going to serve you better than that. Community is so important. We're so starved for it. Andy mentioned about BCL, where there are, students are working side by side in groups and developing close relationships and supporting each other. It's so important. I can't emphasize that enough. And so that's the goal, It's kind of like it says showing up in your own life. To me, showing up in your own life is paying attention to how you feel and what you want, and then trying to pursue that. And then you figure out where, it could be in community service, could be in sports, work, extra coursework, clubs. It doesn't matter how you're doing this. There's no best way to do this. The best way is the thing that's really getting you engaged. So speaking for colleges, I can tell you in conversations with college admissions departments, and Dartmouth is one that leaps to mind because I had a long conversation with those guys. It was all about, how are you involved in your community? How are you supporting others? And how are you pursuing your passions, pursuing your opportunities? That's the main thing they want to hear about. Those are valid pursuits. Those are the things. The question is, what is the evidence of you being at your best? Trying. That's just try, explore and try. No one can ask any more. And that's the thing that's going to be your best guide to a more fulfilled life. I really believe that. I don't like to say it that way though, fulfilled life, but it's just doing stuff that you're into is probably going to leave you feeling better about yourself and about your life. Okay, last slide. So things to think about and remember. Well, I've said so much. It's like you can just reflect on what I've said. So breathe, be curious, explore. There's so many possibilities. Try to network. Networking is key. Talk to anyone you have a relationship with and talk about what you're interested in. And that's the surefire way to make connections to people that they know that will help you have opportunities to do what it is that you want. College visits. You're about to have the summer off. They are open. They love to connect with students. One of the most important things you can do if you're interested in a specific school is contact that school. Make a lot of contact points with them. They create a file on you. They pay attention to that when you apply to them. Naviance I talked about a lot, so I'm not going to rehash that. Okay, that is the official end of my presentation. I thank you so much for attending and listening. I realize how hard it is to listen to one person talk. It's not the best way. I can't wait to have you guys back in school. Please come into school, make appointments. Make an appointment with your child's counselor, make an appointment with your school counselor, stop by the office. If you don't have an appointment, no big deal. Come by the office. If any of us are available, we really enjoy talking with you. So keep that in mind. Finally, before I end this, actually, I'm going to end this slideshow now. And I want to go to answer the one question about gap year. Okay. The single best thing, let me see, how do I want to say this? Okay, there's a gap year fair. It is filled with people that know so much about gap year and know so many opportunities. And that's where I get my ideas from. So we publicize when these gap years are going to happen. We have information too from last year's fair. This is something that we can forward to any interested student. I can tell you that I know some students have done things like AmeriCorps or hooked up with another agency that is serving the community. I always think that's a really worthwhile thing to do. I also think it's equally worthwhile to go and travel and explore and make connections with people and learn about different cultures or different perspectives, be it within our country or be it within trying to do a work experience abroad. So that is a short answer to that, but either have the parent or have the student connect directly with the school counselor. And we can give you materials from the last gap year fair that existed. Last year, they had a virtual one. Okay. I'm checking for any other questions and I don't see any. Okay, I think that's it. Please come in and see us. Please ask us questions. We are really ready to connect with you all. If there aren't any other immediate questions, I'm going to end the Zoom call. So I'll give it about 30 seconds, I guess. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your evening. And I hope that that we continue our conversation about any aspect of what we've discussed tonight. Okay. Good night, everyone. Thank you again so much for coming tonight. We really, really appreciate it. Take care.